When we welcome international students, we benefit from new ideas and ways of learning and researching coming into our post-secondary system predominantly. However, some of these students have experienced serious challenges navigating life in Canada. A few weeks ago, I announced initial reforms to the international student program, including the development of a new framework to recognize learning institutions that provide top quality services and support, including housing to international students. It would be a mistake to blame international students for the housing crisis, but it'd also be a mistake to invite them to come to Canada with no support, including how to put a roof over their heads. It's why we expect learning institutions to only accept a number of students that they're able to provide for, able to house, or assist in finding off-campus housing. In welcoming international students, we have a responsibility to make sure that students are supported when they come to our country. We also want to ensure that international students don't become victims of unscrupulous individuals who offer them inadequate living conditions, sometimes even at inflated prices. Ahead of September 2024, we are prepared to take necessary measures, including significantly limiting visas to ensure that designated learning institutions provide adequate and sufficient student supports as part of the academic experience. In order to achieve this result, it is imperative that we work together with provincial and territorial governments, learning institutions, and other education stakeholders so we can ensure international students are set up for success in Canada. Enough is enough. If provinces and territories cannot do this, we will do it for them, and they will not like the bluntness of the instruments that we use. Our aim is to strike the right balance between welcoming international students and making sure they have all they need to thrive. I will communicate more on this in due course, but for today, I'm here to announce a few more immediate measures. International students need to be prepared for life in Canada, and we have a responsibility to make certain that they are well supported when they come to Canada. Starting on January 1st of next year, in 2024, the financial requirement for study permits will be raised to reflect the current cost of living. And as such, a single applicant will need to show that they have $20,635 in funds to support themselves in Canada, moving up from $10,000, as I mentioned in French. Moving to a more accurate cost of living level that helps international students arrive with necessary resources to live and study in Canada. Future increases will be tied to the low income cutoff that Statistics Canada publishes every year, similar to other immigration programs. This cutoff conveys the income below which an individual may be in strained circumstances as they have to spend a greater than average proportion of their income on necessities. Recognizing that students already have to show that they can cover their tuition as well as other travel costs, or cost of living threshold is set at 75% of the low income cutoff rather than 100%, and puts us on par with our competitor countries. So next year we intend to implement targeted pilots that will test new ideas aimed at helping underrepresented cohorts of international students to pursue their studies in Canada. And we also plan to work with institutions, provinces, and territories to provide students with what they need to succeed. And I will have more to say on this a little earlier on in 2024. I'd also like to update you on 3 temporary policies affecting international students that were set to expire by the end of the year. The main purpose for an international student to be in Canada is to study. However, since most students are currently halfway through their school year and some are working full-time to meet their needs, we will extend the temporary policy that has allowed eligible international students to work more than 20 hours per week through till April 30th of 2024, the end of the academic year. We're currently examining options for this policy in the future, but we know that 40 hours a week is untenable if you're a student, and are looking to potentially expand off-campus work hours for international students up to 30 hours per week while class is in session. Our data shows us that 80% of international students work more than 20 hours a week. And finally, in response to the labor market disruptions over the pandemic, we introduced a temporary policy granting post-graduation work permit holders an additional 18-month open work permit if needed. Those with a post-graduate work permit expiring by the end of this year remain eligible to apply, and we won't be extending that policy after that. Protecting and supporting international students from becoming vulnerable, whether that's to bad actors or simply meeting their needs in Canada, is one of the main goals of our review of the international student program. these students contribute to boosting Canada's economy. Taking these additional steps today contributes to our long-term goal, which is to preserve the integrity of the international student program. It'll be key in all this to work with our provincial and territorial counterparts, which have an important share of the jurisdiction and responsibility in this, as well as other education and stakeholders, including the learning institutions themselves, so that we can ensure that international students really are set up for success in Canada. Thank you, and on that, I'm glad to take your questions.